Counter-Strike Global Offensive is a tactical shooter game, and is one of the top shooter games in general, even though the game is so old. In my personal opinion, it is the best tactical shooter, and in this video, I will explain why. On the surface, CSGO looks relatively straightforward. However, when playing and diving deeper into the game, a lot of fun but intricate mechanics show up. These mechanics, while difficult to control for newer players, become fun and interesting to learn. CSGO at the base level is relatively simple because being a good player only requires 3 simple components: aim, movement, and critical thinking, but the game has deeper mechanics in each component. Beginning with the most simple concept, aim. Like in all first-person shooter games, good aim is what makes up most of the skill curve. What makes CSGO stand out compared to other tactical shooters like Rainbow Six Siege and arcade shooters like Call of Duty is the gunplay. In this game, aiming isn't just keeping your crosshair on the target, you have to adjust for some unordinary recoil. Unlike the games listed before, the bullets do not exit the gun from the barrel or crosshair, but come out in a set pattern. Each gun has its own recoil pattern, so whenever you shoot, you don't keep the crosshair on the target, but you pull down trying to mirror the recoil. If the recoil draws a 7 shape, you move your mouse in an L shape. This is the most difficult and most intricate part of what seems to be a simple concept. This simple but difficult concept is one of the main things that makes CSGO the best strategy shooter. Since each gun has its own recoil pattern, you have to learn all of them. One of the most satisfying things in the game is perfectly getting recoil down. This is also why there's a skill curve. Some precision is required. Next is the more complicated concept of the 3, movement. Movement in games is how your character moves and interacts with the environment it is in. CSGO's movement is split in 2 ways: players' interaction with the environment, the simple and obvious mechanics, and movement, the deeper and more complicated mechanics. Moving around and traversing the world of CSGO normally is pretty simple. Press the W, A, S, and D keys to move laterally, space to jump, control to crouch, and shift to slow walk. These keys are common in most computer games, not only shooters. I love movement in games. Things start to get interesting when you mix in aiming and playing the game. When you move in CSGO, your gun becomes inaccurate, meaning that standing still when shooting is mandatory. On top of recoil, you have to factor in moving around and getting to where you want to be, while also being in a position with a clear advantage. CSGO isn't just holding W and clicking on where the enemies are. You have to think quickly and react to your environment and enemies. Movement mechanics do not stop there. When you are shot, your character is slowed down tremendously, and that slowdown can be stacked with multiple shots, leading you to be so slow you might as well be standing still. This adds on to the deep movement mechanics, and knowing this and planning routes around not being seen can change the way a round turns out. CSGO shares a game engine with Team Fortress 2 and Titanfall, meaning that those games have similar physics. In these games, your player's interaction with the air gets a little weird. In the air, you don't fall, it's more of a gliding motion. You could turn in the air, and this is called air strafing. When you're in the air, you could use your A and D keys to accelerate and move forward instead of just falling. This mechanic could allow you to cut sharp corners and curve around walls into cover. I love games with deep movement mechanics. Nothing is more satisfying than perfectly traversing around the map and outplaying your opponents by moving your character. Knowing how to air strafe alone can help you in many different situations. I have used only air strafing to survive some encounters that I would not normally have survived in the first place. I misjudged where the enemies were and entered an area watched by 3 people. With good movement, I jumped out of there, saving my life and giving my teammates important information. There are even more movement mechanics like B-hopping, edge bugging, jump bugging, crouch jumping, and more, but these mechanics are way too complicated, so we will move on to the next mechanic. Finally, we have critical thinking, the reason why Counter-Strike Global Offensive is a strategy shooter. CSGO is based on the fight between counter-terrorist forces and an opposing terrorist team. Counter-terrorists have to defend 2 locations from the attacking team. It is a 5 versus 5 game. Many things go into how a game might turn out, but with proper timing and positioning, critical thinking and decision making are the most important. In CSGO, information is key and every decision matters. Teamwork and communication are one of the most important aspects of playing the game. Both teams start in the same places every round but do not know where both teams might end up. Having a good communicating team fight against a bad communicating team will always lead to having the good communicating team winning, because they simply know where people are coming from and how to defend. Knowing where people are is the most important thing to know when playing the game, because it tells you where to defend, where to look, how to peek an angle, which fights to engage in, and which fights to fall back on. Just like all of the other main mechanics of the game, correct communication is hard to learn at first, but as you get better, it becomes easier and more useful and important. The best communicator is someone who could give their team the most information as concise as possible, because every second matters, and every bit of knowledge will give you a leg up on your opponents. On top of all of this is an in-game economy. At the start of every round, you are given a period to buy weapons and utility. Every gun has a price, and every kill rewards you a certain amount of money. When the round ends, you are also given a certain amount of money depending on if you win or lose the round. There are 5 categories of items you could buy: utility, pistol, heavy, SMG, and assault rifle. The utility category is made up of body armor and different grenades. Body armor is very important because it lessens the amount of damage taken from weapons and is a necessity for most of the rounds. Grenades are also very important since you could completely shut down the enemy team or make a strong push with proper timing and positioning. Pistols are your secondary weapons. You have a knife, a pistol, and a slot for a primary weapon in this game. Pistols are cheap and have good mobility, but are weak in damage and should only be used when you do not have enough money to buy a primary, when you run out of ammunition, or when your primary is not as effective in the situation you are in. SMGs are primaries and are like stronger pistols. They have a high fire rate, high mobility, good moving accuracy, low cost, and good kill reward payouts, but are hard to control and have low damage. SMGs are mostly used in close quarter situations and for times you can't afford an assault rifle but need something stronger than a pistol. Assault rifles are the weapons you aim to have. They are high damage, medium fire rate, medium mobility, very accurate, and decent kill reward payouts, but are pricey. Assault rifles are split into 2, automatic rifles and sniper rifles. The automatic rifles have high recoil, but make up for it with high damage and are the main picks when buying a gun. Sniper rifles are strong, single-shot weapons that tend to be the most expensive. Sniper rifles only need one shot to kill, but require good aim and precision. Heavy weapons are made of shotguns and LMGs. They have high damage, have high kill reward payouts, are cheap but slow fire rate, and are cumbersome in general. Heavy weapons are not very common and are not as good as assault rifles just because of how slow they are and how much more useful assault rifles are. Throughout the game, you have to think of how much money you have, how much you will earn, how much each weapon costs, and what is best for the situation. If you are low on money, you could buy an SMG and play close and aggressive. If you have excess funds, you could buy a sniper rifle and watch hallways or open spaces from a distance. Every gun has its own uses and specific playstyles, effective situations, and skill requirement, which adds depth to the gameplay and keeps things fun and interesting. Each gun has its weaknesses. It isn't just positives. The sniper rifles, for example, require position and distance because of how the guns work. Sniper rifles have a small magazine size, fire slow, and every bullet counts. It is much harder to hit someone up close that is moving around than someone from far away. You also do not fire in full auto, which makes it harder to hit people. SMGs have a fast fire rate and a lot of bullets to work with, but do not have high damage and are short range. This limits you to close range encounters and makes you an easy target for long range snipers. Same with the shotguns in the heavy category. Automatic rifles are a good mix in between the SMGs and the sniper rifles. Good range, fire rate, and damage, but they share the weaknesses of the SMGs and sniper rifles. The assault rifles struggle in long range and extremely close quarters engagements. These weaknesses and strengths make an extremely diverse and perfectly balanced game with enough variability to include everyone's playstyle. On top of the role you play depending on the gun you use, there is a team role as well. There are 5 roles, one for each player. There is the entry fragger, the person who pushes first or gets the first important kill of the round. The in-game leader, the person who is the captain of the team. The IGL makes the plans, leads the team through the round, and keeps the group morale high. There is the support, the person who follows the leader and helps whenever needed. The Opper, a designated sniper, has their own role because the Op is one of the most expensive guns in the game and is also the strongest, but is very vulnerable to close range attacks. And last is the Lurker, someone who stays behind or flanks the enemy team to prevent pushes or breaks apart defenses. The lurker can also work as a support. As you can see, critical thinking is the most important part of the game, but when you are playing, it is the least felt aspect of the game. The way all these mechanics turn out is incredibly smooth and satisfying. You don't even notice the extremely complicated things when playing, it comes naturally most of the time. In conclusion, Counter-Strike Global Offensive has the perfect balance requiring mechanical skill and decision making, allowing for a new experience in every game. This is why I believe that Counter-Strike Global Offensive is the best tactical shooter. The game can be frustrating but satisfying, intense but fun, fast-paced but intricate, and will always be interesting. This game is perfect for casual and competitive gamers alike, and will always have something to fill a niche, whether it is in the main game or through community-made game modes. My explanation may make the game seem overwhelmingly complicated, but the game is so perfectly balanced, you can't even feel the intricate parts of the game. There's a playstyle for everyone, and there's a role for everyone. The game gets better and better the more you play, and as you improve, the more opportunities open up. If you're looking for something to challenge you, or something to casually play, Counter-Strike Global Offensive is the game for you.